Hey guys, Sam here. It's Friday, December 29th, and had a couple of members interested in an update on Litecoin to Bitcoin on Bittrex. So I've got the 12-hour chart up here just to get some perspective on where we are. Always a good idea because you can lose a sense of that perspective if you get caught up in the the 15-minute or the 1 hour. It's always a good idea to step back and get a sense of where you are in the longer term. If nothing else, as we see here in the longer term range between our high and our low. So if I open this up now, see, here's where it starts to maybe get a little more meaningful, right? So you can certainly lose context if you don't keep an eye on where you are in that range. So I mean, a pretty large range here, and if you look at it, you can almost say we're smack dab. Well, we're smack dab in the middle of that range, and we've got this clear range up here where we're running into resistance up here at these levels, and you can see we've been here before, and so it's a quite and then we've got all the way down here, and this was this was a disappointing move here. This was a really technical pivot here. We had a lot of things line up. We got the first reaction. We thought that was a 1-2. We were going up, and then we had this it was just crushed. That's when Bitcoin was just on a tear. So if we get some handle on this, it's not surprising. So we're effectively triple topping up here right at this prior range. So everything else aside, just looking at the structure of the market, that's not terribly surprising. And if we look at where we are in the larger range, I mean, we're sitting smack dab in the middle of it. So given that, now let's go down and see where there might be some opportunity for us if we're looking to get long. So I'll start at the 4-hour, and now we'll open this up here. Give me a sec to get this where it has some meaning and some perspective for us. Now, looking at this now, and I've shown this, done this chart somewhat recently, because it's uncharacteristically shallow for a 2-wave here, which is a you'll recall. I'm going to put this in logs so we can see it a little bit better. So we get this 1, 2, and 3, and we do qualify. So 3 is longer than 1. But now look at this shelf we run into, and as you'll recall from what I just showed you, we're right into that zone of resistance, which we seem to continue to struggle to get through. So while this looked very promising here as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have the 4 here on that triangular pattern that I'm constantly referring to in crypto that we're seeing. So we still have the possibility that we're going up for a 5th. But we can't discount the possibility that we've already put in a 5th, because we get a diagonal here as the 4 overlaps the 1, and we know an ending diagonal. We'll find that in a C wave or the 5th wave. So hard to argue with that case here. Now we're kind of at our last stand here for the possibility that we've got a 1, 2. So it's kind of interesting, right? So we have a diagonal. So a leading diagonal only found in an A wave or a 1 wave. Ending diagonal only found in a 5th wave or a C wave. So we're kind of stuck here, and the market's going to tell us pretty quickly here. We could have an ending diagonal finishing the 5th, or what bulls are hoping for is that this is a leading diagonal into a 1st. So if I take that to the 1 hour, and we get this recentered here. Now we look at that. Now I'm still in log scale. Now we can look at this and say, okay, if I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 here, there's a reasonable possibility that let me take this off just for the time being, that I've got this, that I'm just starting. So this would be a leading diagonal, which would give me a 1 wave, potentially a 1. We're putting in the 2 before we start going up higher. Let me put that in a different color. Do you see that? So we'll go up to a minuet. There we go. Okay, so this still plays. I mean, we haven't overlapped the 4 yet here, which would start to give you pause as to whether or not this can still be a valid count. We would like to say, so ideally the 618, our favorite little pocket here, holds. So that would allow for a 1, 2, and that would give us some targets up here for a 5th. We'll see. We'll see if it holds, because we certainly have the possibility that we've topped on the 5. If we've topped on the 5, then we're looking for a retracement. So if this ends up being the count here, and we get a 3, 4, 5, that's certainly that certainly looks likely here. But if they, why does this matter, right? So what's the point of all this? Because if we've topped here, let me take this off. Then our next entry, we're looking for the second of that entire move. So if I pull from my low to my high to this wall of resistance that we've run into up here, my next entry is down here. I'm looking for a wave 2 of this completed 5-wave structure. So I'm looking down here anywhere from the 50 to the 618. That's your next entry. If I'm looking at a 2 down here, we can still go higher, but we've got a pretty substantial sell-off to get through for this to be correcting this 5-wave structure. So, but we can't call it yet. We need to see the outcome here as we get this little pop here, this little effort here. So you can see there's an effort here to hold the 618. So if I pull this off now, as potentially we go into a 1, 2 here. So I got to open this up again. So does that work? Well, it does. It does. If this is going off to the side and we're looking at a 1, 2, well, then we're just looking for that zone that we would expect. So I'm working off this as my C. So that's, I'm using some Elliott knowledge here, because the trader looking at this without an Elliott wave count in mind is going to pull from the low. So we want to consider that. Algo probably pull from the low. So we're sitting here right at the 50 off of this low. If you're an Elliott trader, you're looking for 3-wave subdivision, and we get a 5-wave down into an A, we get an A, B, C into a B, and then we get this shallow C wave. And we can get a 5-wave structure into that C, which is why I maintain that this is our 4th here. If that's our 4th, then we don't want to see this. Certainly, we don't want it to overlap here. But you got to respect the fact that an algo might be pulling from this swing low, because it's just going to work from low to high, and we're sitting right at the 50. So we've got both of those kind of influencing the decision here. So look at it. With this as our 4, we're holding at the 618. With this as a straight algo pull, we're holding at the 50. So bulls, the story's not over yet here. This certainly potentially could play as a 1, 2, which means much higher prices here. So we let the market show it. Let the market tell the story. So you might, just to give it some sense of, containing this, a little break here. So what do we need to see? We need to see impulsive behavior come out of this. Because if this is my 2, I'm looking for a 3rd to go up and finish my 5th. So first target here, well, here's my algo target of the larger pull. Here's the big one. See, right? So it lines up over here on the left. Right? So there's remember, I'm still in log scale. So if I take it out of log, maybe that's just easier for you to relate to. So from my absolute low pull from my all the way back, here's the 50 from the swing low to the 3 high. Here's the 50. Here's that algo target up here at -23, and then we have them even higher. If this plays as a 1, 2, which certainly it has that potential right now, well, then I've got an algo target here. Do you see how that lines up here? So if this is my 2 here, my first target is here. But if that's going to be a 3, we know that's likely to go, well, I mean, to qualify, we have to at least get the length of this. So the more common target would be up here. So if we're going to pull from our low here to our 2, put it in here on that low. Oh, this is nice. So we get this big confluence zone up here for a 3. So there's the 1618, 175 box. There's the larger algo target from this 50. So we get a nice cluster up here. So if that's going to start to work its way higher, we get a reasonable target up here that plays with this count. So we could, it's a little bit of a stretch to pull from here. I'd pull it. With a double top, you got to kind of experiment with it. This doesn't play as, that's a possibility. You got to kind of play with these a little bit. Working with this as my 4, that upper parallel that could play. It's a little bit tricky because of this triple top here. One thing I'll tell you, very rarely do you ever see a quadruple top. So if we're going to go up and challenge that again, my bet would be we go through it and there's our target. But you know, that's some stiff resistance to get through. So they're definitely fighting to keep this to hold the 618. You can see that. I mean, it's happening as I'm recording this. So I mean, this is a push to hold the 618. So we go right into. All right, this should be no surprise to anyone who follows me. We go right into the little box here for potentially. I'm just pulling off the low here. So here's my 4 to my high. Here's my 618. Here's my first target. There's 100% the length of what potentially could be this as a one wave. Actually, there it is right there. Pardon my mistake. So I'm pulling here from my 4. So if this is my 1, apologize for that. Too many lines on the chart. Okay, so let's tighten that up. So there's my 1. From the length of my 4, if this is going to play as my 1, this is my 2. So I've got potentially a corner pocket trade setting up here. Here's my first target. Here's the upper parallel. That plays nicely. We need to see some impulsive movement out of this if we're going to get rolling. So a break of this channel would be a good start. Right? So now it's kind of a, you know, that if you're bullish, I mean, you can be in the market now. Here's your risk reward. We certainly don't want it to overlap that 4. So you can put your stop right there. So there's 6.8 to 1. Just and probably a little higher. There's 6.9 to 1. That's the 1618 up here. If this is my 1 2, we've got this cluster up here that we've looked at. There's the negative 618. There's the 23 from this algo pull. So a lot of opportunity here, and then we've got the median line and the upper parallels to contend with here as we start going higher, looking for targets. So if you're a bull, good time to be long. All right, guys, I'll wrap it there.